All right, guys. My name is Brandon.
I'm Jonathan.
And I am Ayden. I'm the guest here. Hi.
If you couldn't tell, we have a guest.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Woo!
Hey.
This is the Discovering Eden podcast, and it's our privilege to talk about trust with you today.
We trust you'll enjoy it.
Good
Yep,
heavens.
There we go. Off to a strong start.
Everybody who's watching already knows that was coming.
Yep.
And what we'll do is we'll pray,
Mhm.
and we'll get into it. So, would there be anybody who would like to pray? I don't want to necessarily pin it on the guest.
I know, my prayers drag on.
Then we will do what we usually do, and we'll just flip-flop. So you did it last week, I'll do it this week.
Yep.
We'll get into it.
All right, cool.
Lord, we just thank you for this time to be able to gather together, talk about you, and kind of just look at all these different words that we see in Scripture, that we see used in the church, and being able to define them and try to get a deeper understanding of what it means in a faith context, Lord. As we engage in this conversation, I pray that anything that isn't from you, Lord, falls to the ground and is forgotten, but anything that is from you, Lord, that it sticks. I just, again, thank you for this time. I thank you for the chance to have a special guest on here with Ayden, and we're excited to do it. Amen.
Yeah.
Now, for everybody, or at least Jonathan's favorite part of the video, the bumper. So the bumper. All right. So trust. And trust is something that is really similar, I think, to faith.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when trying to define it, and I'll kind of go into my own definition. So, like I said, it's very similar to faith, but whereas I think trust is more of a we know it's going to happen, as opposed to I have faith that it will happen. So it's a maybe and a wish, but as in trust is I know it's going to happen. This will happen, and I know it.
I think trust feels a little more personal, like it's just me, but I feel like, I don't know, trust and faith can definitely be interchangeable, but I feel like trust has a bit more of a personal context of I trust you versus I have faith in you. I have faith in you feels like something you just say to someone.
It's a little bit more passive as opposed to trust being a lot more.
Trust is it's earned, and it's like a friend thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I saw some random dude on the street and I'd
trustful, man.
Yeah. No, I'd say trust one of you guys, but if I just met somebody, I'd say I have faith you can do this, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of feels like how it is.
Yeah, trust is like the step up of faith.
Right, yeah. You start by having faith in God, and then you learn to trust God, I feel like.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, kind of echoing what you guys said. It's almost this, and I guess we'll see what Merriam-Webster says, but it's this almost concrete reliability, I feel like, is kind of a good way to put it. It's almost, this is the scientific, kind of where my mind goes is, I know this is for sure, you know.
So it's more of in science terms, it's a law rather than a theory.
Oh, yes.
So if we want to put it in terms of faith so faith would be the theory, even though that sounds really, really bad, out of context.
Oh.
But so faith is a theory, trust is a law.
Right. I mean, sorry, but when you said out of context, that generated a thought with me is faith is out of context. Think about faith. When you have faith in something, it generally means you don't have a lot of concrete reason to believe something's going to happen.
That is fair.
And when I say concrete, I mean earthly, visible, etc., etc.
Yeah. Anyway, those are some pretty good definitions. Nice job, us.
The real question is, will Merriam-Webster impress or disappoint us this week?
I don't have a lot of faith or trust in what's gonna happen with Merriam-Webster. I'm not gonna lie.
He did the fun.
Of course I did.
Yeah. So, it has been a mixed bag with Merriam-Webster. There's been a few weeks where we walk away going, "Wow, good job, guys."
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I've got it pulled up.
Mhm.
They've got a couple definitions. So here they are. The first one is assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. One in which confidence is placed. Dependence on something future or contingent. Reliance on future payment for property, such as merchandise, to be delivered.
Yes. That's the one right there.
You gotta trust that
Yeah.
merchant's intuition.
A property interest held by one person for the benefit of others. Different form of trust.
I was gonna say.
It's a fun.
Trust fund, yes. Combination of firms or corporations formed by a legal agreement. So
All right,
again,
where we're going?
Now that one's deeply theological, right?
yes, I think so too. So obviously they went into a different form of trust eventually, but I think those first couple definitions.
I think one definitely encapsulates it with like the concrete reliability.
Yeah.
Like that, I think we hit on that earlier.
The assured reliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty good. I mean, again, they went into the other.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think
that's
we
kind of
figured.
kind of the trend though with dictionaries, isn't it? Is it like oh yeah, that's relevant. Okay, that's relevant. That's kind of relevant. That's not at all what I asked for.
So you get thus the mixed bag.
Exactly. But yeah.
So when I think of trust, and I know we've kind of heard a little bit of your testimony.
Mhm.
I think it would be awesome if you were to share your testimony with those that listen, and then kind of what your experience with trust is.
All right.
Especially with your trust in Jesus, namely.
Yeah. As far as my trust, I started to really trust in Jesus a couple of years ago. I'd say end of 2022. I always grew up believing in Jesus. I was raised in a Christian family, Christian school, all of that. In 2021, I started to have major health issues that stemmed from pre-existing conditions regarding connective tissue and my heart. And it involved multiple surgeries, and I code blued, which means I medically died twice. I was brought back both times. I believe it was the second time I was conscious when it happened. But yeah, it was a completely random phenomenon. I believe my heart, I think my lung, it was either overinflated or just stopped working altogether. We have no clue what actually caused it exactly, but either way, I just went out. I couldn't breathe, and I just blanked. It was very strange, but while they were working on me, trying to bring me back, my mom said that she was out there in the lobby. She was crying. One of the nurses was comforting her, and then she saw a vision of a brilliant bright light, and she saw a figure with two large bright wings that opened and closed, revealing the figure. And the whole time she was just going, "Please don't let that be Ayden. Please don't let that be Ayden." And afterwards, I believe she thinks it was Jesus. After that, I didn't see anything, for the record. I actually didn't even see black. It was like a smash cut, if that makes any sense, where it went from, I was looking into the eyes of my mother, who was terrified, and all of a sudden I was just back in the same spot, except everything was different. I could tell it was later. There was different people in the room, and I was like, what is going on? But yeah, just her testimony especially, which she has been very open about with me, that right there, that's one of the biggest reasons I've grown to trust in God. And the other thing is that they brought me back with CPR, chest compressions, which, in case you guys don't know, tend to break ribs. And no, my ribs did not break. I was not even bruised. And for those who might be a little skeptical, I have pre-existing conditions that lead to brittle bones and thin blood, meaning something should have happened. My heart should have been damaged. None of that. I was perfectly okay, which is medically impossible. that I felt was intervention, direct intervention from God, and that has led to what I consider to be more of a present trust. Now it is developed and continued to the point where now I just have what I feel like is an almost complete trust in Jesus.
Wow. Such a powerful testimony.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't even say things on the same level because I've never been through anything of that magnitude. But you hear stories like Ayden's quite frequently. I've heard actually several stories that are kind of in that same ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And or you go to the near-death experiences and all those kind of phenomena, and people are like, I don't understand, how does this work?
Yeah.
But every single time I hear it, I hear of the faithfulness and the trust that people have in God, saying, this is what happened to me. Yeah. How can God not be real?
Exactly. Yeah. I love hearing that kind of stuff because it just kind of makes me think, people need to hear this, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody, you know, can hear pretty much everybody at this point. People on TV talk about God a lot, both for and against, and I'm just like, these are the people that need to be up there. These are the people who need to be sharing their testimony. So I feel like those are the stories.
And so often I think that sometimes these testimonies get into the background and get lost.
Yeah.
And whereas, you know, platforms like this, like YouTube, I feel like that should elevate and highlight some of these testimonies. And you just don't often see it enough because a lot of, say, media is a lot of bad news.
Right.
Like, what news are they sharing? Stuff that makes the news are usually stuff that, you know, is abnormal, but in a negative connotation. Yeah. Whereas it would be great if we could have some good news with a positive connotation.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I'm pretty sure there is multiple smaller organizations dedicated to good news. But those definitely do get drowned out in the background because they don't have the pull, they don't have the influence that the other big ones have who've been around for years and years and years.
And it's kind of funny that all of this is kind of coming together. Like, we're talking about trust this week. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's Palm Sunday today, as of when we're recording.
Right.
So having this trust, having this hope, and leading into Easter, like, how fitting is that?
Exactly.
How fitting.
I mean, think about that. That week was the ultimate test, even on Jesus, of trusting in his Father and trusting in himself. Because, I mean, he knew what was going to happen. He knew how it was going to end. But he also was still 100% human and God in that moment. Meaning, his trust in that was perfect, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Which is impossible.
Yeah. It just... My mind's blown every time, like, I think of different things like this. Like, I always, like, try to put myself in the shoes of people, but I'm like, how do you put yourself in the shoes of Jesus?
Exactly.
Like,
we have no idea. We have no idea. Like, even the Gospels, they were written by somebody else who watched what Jesus was going through and having to guess.
Yeah.
You know? Like, we're not really gonna ever know how Jesus felt, but no matter what, you know, that's still a crazy amount of trust.
Oh, 100%.
Like, even though he knew, you know, like I said, they're still 100% human, so.
All right. Did you want to give, like, a brief character that you think best embodies trust in the Bible? Before. I know he technically has to go. Ayden technically has to go for a meeting really soon.
Really soon, yeah. We have like 7 minutes.
Yeah, we can see just character, brief description, go for it.
Honestly, I feel like the best character, funny enough, is almost a more extreme reflection of what I've gone through, and that is Job. That entire character was, he was incredibly faithful to the Lord. He loved the Lord with all his heart, and then the Lord allowed the devil to just go at him and just take away everything he had. Obviously, like I said, an incredibly extreme example here. But through all of that, Job was angry, he felt hurt, but he never once went out and said, this is God's fault. God is bad for doing this to me. the whole time he was faithful, and he was rewarded afterwards. And I feel like he trusted in God. He trusted that whatever was going on for a reason. If he didn't trust God, he wouldn't have let that happen. I mean, he would have just let himself go. He wouldn't have cared anymore, but he did enough where when his friends came at him and tried to convince him there were these reasons something was happening, he's like, no, there's no human reason this is happening. I didn't do anything, and I know I didn't do anything. God is doing this for a different reason, which in the end was true.
Yeah, Job is definitely an interesting story and a different, it's a different perspective.
Right.
Of someone who is, like, I guess kind of like a mirror. Well, it's not a mirror. Definitely not a mirror. No. But, like, kind of a reflection of Jesus in a way.
Right.
Where it's like
human.
It's the human aspect of Jesus, but obviously there's sin that's there.
Oh, yeah.
But he's, like, as close to...
Yeah, as close
quote-unquote perfect as you could get.
Yeah, his story does mimic in several ways, I'll give you. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Obviously, it's not a direct
Obviously not direct,
yeah.
no. But do not come at us. We are not heretics.
Put the disclaimer in there.
But, yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
All right, then it's getting pretty close to the time.
Getting there, but I don't want to rush anything. But yeah. I've got a couple minutes,
and then
like I said, it only takes like half a minute to get to where I'm going.
But, so when I think of trust, and I've cheated before, and I'm going to cheat again a little bit.
Thanks for the disclaimer, Jack.
Yeah. My mind jumps to two people. And specifically because they were kind of enduring it at the same time. Mm-hmm. But my mind jumps to the story of Paul and Silas in prison.
Oh, yeah.
And when they were singing.
That's
just where my mind jumps immediately, because it's just this, there's more to this plan. We're in in
jail.
In the jail. I was trying to think of a fancier word.
I could see it, and I was like, nope.
The train's gonna leave the station if I don't keep going. But it's just this faith that there's a plan greater than this in this moment. And just trusting in that to the point where we're going to sing. I mean...
Yeah, the trust led to peace, and the peace led to joy, and it's like, why, how? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I agree with that one, even though it is technically two people. They did the same thing. They're basically in that moment.
Yeah.
That's interchangeable, so yeah, I give you that.
They are the church.
Exactly, yeah. The entire church.
Where two or more gather.
Yeah, exactly. Fair point, honestly. But
and Brandon, what about you?
Speaking of Paul.
There it is.
So, my character is very rooted in the conversion of Paul. So, conversion of Saul to Paul.
Yeah.
The person that I think best embodies trust is Ananias.
Oh, Damascus. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good one, actually.
He always goes with the more obscure.
Yeah, it took me a second because I didn't remember the name, but I remembered the person, and I was like, oh, yep, there it is.
So, for those who don't know, Saul, as Paul was formerly known as, was basically persecuting the Jews or Christians.
The
Jewish people following
yeah.
what they called the Way.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, Saul was a Pharisee of Pharisees, Jew of the Jews, or basically he's all that. And then
he was kind of viewed as, to give the comparison, he was almost viewed as Job pre everything bad that happened to him. He was the perfect dude. He was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be Saul, Yeah,
and he was even learning under one of the more respected.
Exactly. He had it made, people, is the point.
Yeah. And basically, Saul's on this road to Damascus, basically ready to, stop the way.
Mm-hmm.
Where he encounters, Jesus, who basically blinds him,
mm-hmm.
puts, the sheets are,
I think the wording was scales.
Yeah, it's scales. Well, but then, like, I keep thinking of like scales fell from his eyes, kind of thing. But like, how do you put him on? Like,
there was a light, and you couldn't see for 3 days. Is the point, or however long it was. I think it was 3 days. I could
and where the trust aspect comes in is like in Ananias, where God basically tells Ananias in a dream or vision or whatever, like, hey, go to this guy named Saul, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna basically help him out.
Yeah.
Help him remove the scales that he has for his eyes, and lay your hands on him, pray for him, send him out.
Yeah.
And Ananias is like, what? The guy that's persecuting us. And God, he's trying to
kill me.
us. Why? Please no.
I can't think of a good modern equivalent really, and this one might be a little dark, but it would pretty much be if God asked a Jew during the Holocaust to go to a Nazi and pray for him. They're like, what? No, that's not happening. I hate these guys. They hate me.
And
what's the deal here?
It's that aspect of trust that goes beyond that, above and beyond.
Right.
And yet he still does it.
And he still does it. It's obvious. He's like, why? I don't understand. But I mean, you're God. Yeah.
It's like, okay, I trust you.
Exactly. It's definitely the trust where it's an affirming. He's like, I know who you are. I know things about you, and I know you're appearing to me. That makes me trust you.
I almost was thinking of Stephen as well for trust.
That's also a good one, yeah.
But I went with Ananias.
I'm the only one who didn't cheat here.
Huh?
I said, wow, I'm the only one.
I always give little honorable mentions. But yeah, Ananias is something, especially when you look at the gravity of everything. It's like, yeah, this could, end very poorly for you.
Exactly. There was already evidence to support the idea of maybe I shouldn't do this, but there was more to support that he should.
Especially with Saul affirming the stoning of Stephen.
Precisely. He was the guy behind that, which I feel like people forget sometimes.
So it's just like, yeah, obviously, and Ananias is probably quaking in his boots. It's like, well, I guess sandals.
The sandals. There we are.
But yeah, you're putting your own perspective into some of these characters,
obviously, yeah.
And you put yourself into Ananias' sandals, and you're like, I don't know if I could do it. If I'm going to be honest, it's like, but it's not necessarily a question of, is it because I don't trust God enough?
Yeah.
But it's kind of because we're not really in that kind of persecution.
Yeah.
In the same level.
Right.
But I always ask myself, would I be able to do that? Or something in that line? And it's an interesting thing to ponder.
That is a good thing. I'm definitely going to think about it. I have a gut reaction, but I think I should probably think on it a little more.
Yeah. See if
it changes.
So some fun thoughts too.
Some very fun thoughts. Would you go to someone who actively wants to
so a story like that, and I know you brought up Jews in the Holocaust.
Yeah, and that was an extreme example, I know, but that was the closest modern equivalent I could think of.
It reminded me, I don't remember what it exactly is called. Oh, and the Ananias Paul Saul conversion, Acts 9. So if you wanted to look at it, Acts 9.
I'd say we're not going to.
I brought it up on my phone, and I completely forgot about it. Yeah. There we go. It's there.
Don't worry, we won't spoil the 2,000-year-old book.
But it reminded me of, I think, what was it? It was, oh shoot. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Oh no!
We did greatest lead
the
station.
That never happens.
It was it wasn't Kenya. It's one of the African countries where there was basically a lot of homicides and different things like that.
Yeah.
Where there was a reconstruction plan where basically the people that were basically attacking each other and all that kind of stuff, they would build houses next to each other and help each other rebuild together.
Interesting.
To kind of build back that relationship in a different way. And it's like, do you trust?
Yeah, trust that your neighbor's not going to come at you in the night.
So it's something like that, but it worked out really well. I have to look it up. I know I heard it somewhere, and I watched like a documentary and something on it. I just can't remember the name of anything on it because it just left my brain.
I know you guys don't really edit these, but if I was editing it, this would be the part where you cut in the a few moments later. Ba-da-ba-bum-bum-ba-bum-bum.
Exactly.
Just visualize that in your head.
Build back plan.
And to tell you about our sponsor, Axe Body Spray. We are not sponsored. I should say they're not sponsored. This is their podcast.
I don't remember what is it? No.
You're not even gonna read the AI generation?
No.
It popped up and you scrolled right past it.
It might be right.
It might be right. I don't know.
No, it's definitely it's going South Africa, which is not right. Yeah.
Well.
Shoot.
Well,
don't worry, Brandon. I'm sure someone from there is watching and is very offended. You can't remember the name of their home. I'm certain.
If it makes you feel like that, this is what happens to me every week.
That's gonna eat me alive.
And this is why I edit. Because I do this, and then there's like an awkward moment of silence. I'm like, I'm gonna have to cut this out later.
But guess what? You get to enjoy all of it.
Yeah, this is homework. This was intentional. We want you to figure out what it is. Put it in the
Please
comments.
let us know.
For Brandon's sanity, please.
I know it's out there. I just can't remember the name of the country.
You just know the minute we stop recording, he's gonna go, oh, that's what it's called.
That's always what happens, though.
The person I'm gonna meet is just gonna be like, where were we? And I'm like, we were trying to help Brandon remember the name of a South African country.
I know it's not South Africa. That's apartheid. But
yeah,
it's oh, that's gonna eat me alive.
You can't remember the country?
No, I can't remember the country.
Ethiopia.
As soon as I know the country, Somalia. Is it Somalia?
Maybe.
Is it?
When was this?
Oh, it was like. See, again, I can't remember.
Okay, let's not go down this rabbit hole. You made your point. You made the point.
Anyway, it's out there. If I end up managing to find it, I'll put it in the description below.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
This is how these things end up, right?
Well, as long as there's not an official end, I might ask that you go check out The Oddsiders. That is my YouTube channel that I completely forgot to mention at the beginning during the intro. It was formerly known as the Brozone TV. So if you see like the banners weird or the descriptions weird, that's why we're still rebranding right now. But yeah, that is my channel. There should be more stuff up on that soon.
What can people expect from your channel?
A lot of skit content, as well as I'm going to be making more Christian content. I'm going to cut back on the gaming content a little bit. I feel like that has a different place. But yeah, there's going to be like walk and talks in Grand Haven and that kind of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not stealing ideas from Rooster Teeth and applying them to my channel. I wouldn't even think about that.
He would never think about it.
I would never. I'm not even saying this right now. It's just not happening.
It's just going to magically get edited out.
Exactly. It's just going to be a really long censor beep, and you're not going to understand why. It's like, these guys are clean. Why is there a censor beep here?
Well.
So if you guys are interested in checking out Ayden's channel, we'll leave a link in the description.
I'd appreciate it. I actually lost subscribers from the rebrand because I didn't recognize the channel in their subscriptions. I was like, wait, why do I have 163 subscribers? I'm like, oh, I should have probably put out a bit more of a notice than one social post.
Disclaimer, we're actually rebranding.
Yeah, they probably looked in their subscription like, who's the Oddsiders?
This is the outsider. No.
There it is. There's the end.
On that note, We'd love to see you next week.
And we trust you'll have a great week.
I won't be here, but join anyways. I'm sure you didn't come here to see me.
All right. Later.